Hello and welcome to Carrying On, an in-depth look at my own record collection here in Thailand and some personal memories about these records and why I love them so much. My name is Julian, and here on Carrying On today, I'm going to talk about this record here, The Crusaders, Southern Comfort, released in 1974. So this is exactly 20 years after they first got together, sorry, in Houston, Texas. At least the founding members got together at high school. And that was Wilton Felder on the tenor saxophone, Joe Sample on the keyboards, and Stix Hooper on the drums. These school friends were the original members in 1954, later joined particularly by Wayne Henderson, and later on in the 1970s, Larry Carlton and Hubert Laws on the flute. Larry Carlton, of course, on the guitar, who is featured on this record, Larry Carlton, and a lot of the early 70s Crusaders records. So this band, they actually started. They actually got a record contract and started as professionals they moved to Los Angeles in 1960 and became the Jazz Crusaders. And they made quite a name for themselves as kind of hard bop pioneers in the 1960s with a kind of R&B and soul slant to their music. They're always accessible, always easy to listen to with that tenor sax and trombone, with the great melodies they had and a really good rhythm section. And but it was really the 1970, the early 1970s, when they changed their name actually in 1970, and they changed record label, and they really went into a jazz funk era in the early 1970s. So starting in 1970, going all the way through the 1970s, all the way up to their big hit in 1979, Street Life, and that album, which that was their kind of ironically their biggest hit, but really in many ways they're well past their peak then. Their 60s peak of that hard bop R&B and their early 70s peak of their jazz funk. And I was a bit of a latecomer to the Crusaders. It was probably about 7 or 8 years ago when I went round to I live in Thailand. I went round to an old expat. He was over 80 years old and he was in failing health, this guy, and he needed to make a bit of extra money, and he wanted to sell some of his records. And I went round to his house in Kanchanaburi in Thailand. I had a tip off from a friend. I didn't know him that well, but I went round and had a cup of tea with him and a chat with this nice old guy who was locally known as the Godfather for some reason amongst the expat community there in Kanchanaburi. And one of the records I picked out was the best of the Crusaders. And yeah, there wasn't a huge amount in his collection, which was in my area, the kind of soul jazz funk. But this one was. I knew the name, I knew the band, I knew one or two of the songs, of course, as a kind of jazz fan, but never really listened to them properly. And I thought, oh well, I'll grab this one, Best of the Crusaders. And I actually picked out 6 or 8 records in the end, and paid him what I thought was a fair price. He didn't really seem to know what that would be, but some of the records didn't have a cover, which included this Crusaders album actually, which is why it slipped in as the third record here. I've got the Best of the Crusaders album here. And anyway, I took it home and I played it and thought this is fantastic. Songs like the opening track on this album was is on the greatest hits, Stomp and Buck Dance and Greasy Spoon, and there are other tunes on there like So Far Away and some of their other famous songs from the early 70s. And yeah, it was great. I thought I put them down kind of mentally on my list. Okay, I need to explore this band more, and of course I did. I can just go online and explore. And next time I was back in London, I went to. Well, you can see the shop on the label here. I went to uh, 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 Music and Goods Exchange in Notting Hill, this famous record shop in the Notting Hill area, where they have lots of secondhand records, a big secondhand shop, and I picked this up, as you can see, for 8 quid, 8 quid there, and Yeah, it's a double album released in 1974. I knew one or two of the songs from the greatest hits, and yeah, I knew this was one of from their peak period of if you're into your 70s jazz funk. This is I knew that this was known as one of their best albums. But once again, seems to be a theme running here. Once again, doing research about this album online, not a huge amount there online. You know, if you Google this album, yeah, you'll get the basics, the details, but not a huge amount of reviews. No great in depth analysis that I could find really on this album. And in my opinion, having listened to a lot of their stuff now, particularly their 70s stuff, this for me is my favorite Crusaders album. In fact, I'm going to put it out there. I think it's their best album from 1974. And yeah, it is a double album. So yeah, you kind of have to admire the ambition, really. You know, in 1974, the ambition of themselves and the record companies to indulge them to put out double albums of instrumental jazz fusion, which, or jazz funk, really, jazz funk. A bit of fusion in there as well. I guess with Larry Carlton on the guitar there, it leads this album into a little bit of that kind of more jazz fusion, jazz rock side, which I'm not a big jazz rock fan, but it works really well here. The addition of Larry Carlton adds an edge to their music, which sometimes it lacks. As someone I read someone in the reviews I was reading online says the Crusaders it never changed the world, but they made the world a heck of a lot better to live in by listening to their music. And I think that's kind of true. This is not, hugely groundbreaking or cutting edge music, but gosh, it's really enjoyable. And this album, I think, is my favorite because it gets the closest to that cutting edge and that time of jazz fusion in 1974. There are parts of this record which I think really are interesting and from a jazz and the history of jazz funk and jazz fusion, which on a first listen you might think, oh, but actually listen deeper and especially get to the second record, the second record in this album. It really starts to open up this record, and it really it's worth listening to again and again. And you're in different moods, and the different songs hit you differently. I find on this record. So that's the cover. You've been looking at that for a while. Let's look at the back. So here it is, the three sides here, and you can see we get 8 songs in the first half of the record, and then only 4 in the second half. These are generally 7 8 minute long songs. So a very different tone here in the second record. Nice picture there. As you can see the glass of Southern Comfort there in the theme there. It's there in the cover as well. The glass of Southern Comfort. It is a record that does go down well with a whiskey or if Southern Comfort is your thing, then a Southern Comfort. But I do, yeah. I was listening to this last night with a whiskey and coke, and yeah, it's a good time album which just goes down well with an evening drink. I find. Let's open the gatefold. And wow, here we go. Yeah, there they are, the 5 members of this excellent group of jazz funk musicians. You can see there Larry Carlton, the one white guy in this group. There he is. He joined a few years ago, but I think this album really represents his work with the Crusaders and what he brings to the band really well. Let's go into a little bit more depth in this record then. So it starts off with Stomp and Buck Dance. Now, this is a great tune. What a fantastic lead off single, fantastic groove. It just goes bang, hits you straight away. This song, it is one of their classic tunes. It was there on the greatest hits and deserves to be. It's a really funky um, groove all the way through. The bass playing is it's strange they didn't have a full-time bassist. Wilton Felder, one of the founding members and saxophone player, he filled in a lot of the bass duties on these records. I think he played bass throughout this record. And considering how important the bass is to the sound, it's amazing they didn't have a dedicated, bassist who permanently stayed with the group. But for some reason, they didn't. Maybe just Wildenfelder enjoyed it because the bass sounds fantastic throughout this record, and he obviously enjoyed, playing dual roles here. And so, yeah, written by Wayne Henderson. That first song, "Stomp and Buck Dance," great tune. Then it goes into "Greasy Spoon," written by Styx Hooper, the drummer on the Sticks. And yeah, this is a kind of a more of a slower bluesy number with a great kind of wah wah like guitar sound throughout from Larry Carlton. I enjoy that quite a lot. It's bluesy. It's a change of pace. It's a little bit slower. As is the third song, "Get on the Soul Ship." So this is kind of a little bit Crusaders by numbers, I guess. Just 2 or 3 minutes of just enjoyable, again, soul jazz. Really, some nice, nice saxophone in there. And then Super Stuff, we start to up the pace again a bit, and this is a really nice, more upbeat soul jazz tune. Again, we're not talking about the album highlights here, but yeah, yeah, it's good. It's a more upbeat tune, which ends that first side well. Yeah. Um, and then we go to side two, and yeah, again, upbeat start to this to the second side of the first record, written by Joe Sample, "Double Bubble." Yeah, I like this one. It's classic, funky soul jazz with again nice solos throughout. Then track two, and this is where we start to get into some of the really excellent tunes. I think some of the best tunes that the Crusaders have ever made. Track two, side two, "The Well's Gone Dry," written by Larry Carlton. Fantastic guitar lines, bass lines in here. This is where we get that more jazz fusion, jazz rock element to this. I love this tune. It's got that little bit of a dirtier edge to it, and you just when this one comes up, I just want to turn it up, crank it up. It's a great, funky guitar, bass, drums tune. Track three, "Southern Comfort," the title track to the album, "Southern Comfort." Is we go into a slower tempo again. We just change it down a bit, but it's a really great tune. It's a really great ballad, maybe one of their best actually. Really nice tune, written by Wayne Henderson. Yeah, some nice trombone in there and saxophone again. And then it goes into another highlight of the album, at the end of the first record, "Time Bomb." I mean, what a great piece of jazz beat, jazz funk this is. So we're now at the end of the first record, and what a bomb this is to leave till last at the end of the first record. "Time Bomb," brilliant tune. I love the way that I love the melody and the breakdown in here, and the way this twists and turns with such a great funky tune. "Time Bomb," absolute uh, absolutely great tune, great one for the dance floor, I think. And if that had been the end of this record, if it had been a one record album, that would have been a really good Crusaders album. 8 tracks, 40 odd minutes, bang, your standard kind of Crusaders album with, 4 or 5 really good songs. Well, some of their best. It would have been one of their best albums if it was just that one record. But I think what elevates this to, in my opinion, being their best record is when you go to side three and side four. And this record really opens up. And I haven't really seen this talked about that much. People choose tunes from here as their best tune on the album. But wow, the change in pace and style here. We're going into much longer riffs and jams. And I mean, the opening one there, "When There's Love Around," written by Styx Hooper, I think is my favorite. It's either this or "The Well's Gone Dry." But I think the way this starts and that this kind of uh, beautiful keyboards and then this kind of rolling kind of bass line, this descending bass line, which just absolutely gets me every time. I love it. It's a brilliant tune, brilliant guitar lines as well, and it's so melodic. I just love it. It's different. It's not just playing the soul jazz kind of playbook. It's innovative. It's different. It's funky, but it's really good. Lilies of the Nile, another great theme. The Crusaders are great, and the Jazz Crusaders were great at those kind of at those brass melodic lines, on the trombone and the saxophone. And this is another great one. Again, it's a little bit slower in pace, but it's a great theme, and they play around the theme so well with all their solos. Um, yeah, they're just in the pocket here in these kind of mid-tempo numbers with great themes that they come back to. It never feels indulgent, even though it is another 8-minute tune. And then you flip it over to the last side, and Whispering Pines, another I think 8-minute tune. And Whispering Pines, what a great name for this tune, because it seems so light and airy in a way, with a lovely kind of um, lovely cymbal line going all the way through it, great bass lines, and it just seems to float, this song by Wayne Henderson. And all the solos are wonderful again, and it has a lovely kind of lilting melody to it, but it's quite upbeat. It has because of this kind of very nimble rhythm section, and particularly the drumming, I think, by Styx Hooper. Um, it's just fantastic, and it's a fantastic piece of jazz. Forget the labels: jazz fusion, jazz rock, jazz funk, soul jazz. This is a wonderful piece of of jazz. For 1974. You could have put now Miles Davis on this record, and then they're probably being seen as a masterpiece, something like Whispering Pines. But because it's the Crusaders, it doesn't get picked up on quite so much. But it is a fantastic tune. Never get tired of that. Beautiful melody. And finishes with another ballad. The pace slows again for a ballad for Joe. Another quite long tune, I think 6, 7 minutes long, it's elegiac, a slow burn kind of a record with a lovely lilting kind of melody to it. But yeah, never reaches any kind of crescendo. It just kind of, yeah, just a beautiful way to end the record. Just slowly the tempo kind of comes to a halt at the end. But throughout, there's again a lovely interplay between the musicians here. And again, this is not again this is a long way from soul jazz by numbers. This is really interesting jazz balladry here, uh, twisting around a theme in a very subtle and interesting way, I think. So yeah, it's side that, and that's the second record. So you've already got a really good, I mean, excellent record here in that more soul jazz style, but with some interesting work by Larry Carlton that elevates it anyway. But then the second record, wow, yeah, this is a great record, and in my opinion, the Crusaders' best record. But you might think differently, and that would be fine because there's plenty to choose from in their back catalogue. I mean, I do like some of their work in the Crusaders as well. In the Jazz Crusaders in the 1960s. There's one called Jazz Waltz, which I really like from about 1966. And yeah, I mean, there are some great records there, and of course, there are great records around this time. I think Crusaders One was it from 1971, and Crusaders was it Pass the Plate, and Crusaders Three. Yeah, they're all pretty pretty great records too. But this one, for me, tops it because of uh, especially Larry Carlton's work here, but the work of the whole band. They just work together really well. How about you? So, what's your favorite Crusaders record? Uh, uh, so, put it in the comments, please. Is it this one? Do you agree with me? Or is it, should I be digging more into their 60s stuff? Yeah, is there a record there that you really recommend? What is your 1970s peak record by them? Is there anything else that I've missed? I mean, they did make records in the 80s, and I think they made a comeback record in 2003 as well, which is quite good. But yeah, what's your favorite Crusaders record? Yeah, why? Yeah, why do you think they're kind of a little bit underrated? I think, and forgotten in the jazz funk canon. Yeah, maybe we should be talking more about the Crusaders and their influence. And it's a great gateway drug, let's call it, into jazz, a record like this, because it's so accessible in many ways, but also has that experimental side but always with a melody. So yeah, a great way if you're sticking your toe in the water with jazz. This is a great way to start because you've got the blues elements, you've got a little bit of the rock element, the soul element in there, the that soul jazz side. So it's really there's a real range of influences, which mean a lot of people can enjoy this record. So that's it from me today, Julian. Thank you for watching again here, carrying on all the way from sunny Thailand today. It is pretty sunny today here, sunny September day. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again next time. But for now, bye bye.